Welcome. Today we are going to talk about one of the first and most important segments of trying to understand your body and its beautiful uniqueness. And that is looking at your body composition. Registered dietitians, nutritionists, if they're really good coaches, they should be using a tool I use called a Renpho. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm Christina Williams, coach, master nutritionist. I help ambitious people get the body and the lifestyle they need, and it starts with education. So let's jump right in. The Renpho is an impedance body composition scale. This means that it's using a low-grade electrical current to run through your body, and what it does is, based on the speed of this current, it thinks it's either going through body fat, water when it's speeding up, or when it's slowing down, it's going against muscle mass or bone density. All right, the first thing the Renpho is going to track is obviously our body weight. Now, from a coaching standpoint, I don't really care what this figure is specifically. I just look at it as our starting point, so never feel bad. We have to begin somewhere. The next thing it tracks is BMI, your body mass index. Honestly, this was generated by insurance companies, so their actuaries could decide how much to charge you. Well, if you come from the bodybuilding industry like I do, our frames are much more heavier in terms of muscle mass, and this is not an indicator in your BMI, so I don't use it. Next, body fat. Now, again, we really just want to mark this as a starting point in our journey. What's really important to note from a coaching standpoint is that person under 10% body fat, or are they over 10% body fat? And why is that important? It's important because the body metabolizes carbs much differently under 10% than it is over 10%. Now, I'll let you know, the people writing articles and doing all these surveys, they probably can't get clients under 10%. But guess what? Bodybuilding coaches do every day, all day. So it's important for us to note just where you're at on the spectrum so we can make good decisions for you. But body fat, just a starting point. It'll get better, I promise. Body water. Now, for this guy, we're looking at the trend. And one of the great things about the Renpho is not only is it going to give you the details that you need, that I need, it's going to track us so we can make sure that we're consistently making progress in the right direction. And that's always the key when you're working on any plan. This is actually one of those unique elements that you actually want to see it going up on the Renpho, not down. And the reason why is because this is a determination of whether your body's holding on to excess water or whether it's not. So this guy, we want up. All right, the next two factors is going to look at your skeletal mass and your bone density. From a coaching standpoint, you want to make sure that your plan is preserving these factors or they're on the upward trend. They're a direct indicator of your metabolic health and of your body's internal structure health. So we want to make sure that those guys are maintained, especially if you're on a weight loss plan. Next, one of the most important factors you're going to get from your Renpho is your basal metabolic rate, BMR. This is the rate in which your body burns calories if you never get out of bed. Now, why is that important? Because we want to make sure that we're protecting your metabolism and that you're feeding yourself enough calories. Any plan that you pick, you need to first cater around your basal metabolic rate. We don't want to undereat. We want to make sure that we give our body enough fuel so our organs can do their jobs. If we're on too long of a calorie deficit and it's too great, you're actually going to experience what's called metabolic adaptation in a negative way. Okay? So we want to make sure your basal metabolic rate is known and that you're using it to decide how many calories you should be eating every day. The next element we look at is your subcutaneous fat. That's that fat layer that sits in between your skin tissue, water retention, and your muscle mass. What's super important about this guy is not just that it's in a downward trend, but understanding that there are certain things in your lifestyle and your diet that can affect this subcutaneous body fat. For example, if you're eating things like artificial flavoring, sucralose, that actually can increase your subcutaneous body fat appearance, and that's where the cellulite appearance comes from. So if you're on any plan, you want to make sure that this guy's managed. Next on our list, we're going to talk about visceral fat. This should be one of the primary focuses on any one of your plans. And why it's so important is because This represents the fat that's sitting in your midsection around your organs and your intestines, and is one of the lead indicators for disease management. Now, there are 3 areas that we try to control visceral fat. The first is stress. 95% of your serotonin, which is your feel-good hormones, are actually produced in your gut. So when we get stressed out, we maintain relationships that are not serving us. Or secondly, we don't sleep. Your cortisol, your adrenals, they all get manufactured in here and in the brain. So we want to make sure that we're really trying to manage our stress as best as we can, because even if you're eating a healthy diet, if we don't maintain a good stress management program, this guy, it's going to stay. The second reason why this guy stays has to do with eating foods that you cannot break down and have a food intolerance to. So when the Renpho is measuring your visceral fat, it's also measuring the amount of inflammation in your gut. So we want to make sure that you eliminate any foods that might be causing inflammation and are not serving you. Remember, healthy isn't always healthy unless you actually get the right blood work, and we know what foods your body loves. Okay, so visceral fat, stress, sleep, food intolerances, and lastly, but definitely not least, for my females, we're talking about hormone imbalances. Unfortunately, this guy, it's gonna show. So on the Renpho, we wanna make sure that this guy is in a downward trajectory and we're managing it. All right, we're almost there. The second to last is gonna be our muscle mass. This guy is one of the most important factors you're gonna track. And the reason why is because your muscle mass is a direct indicator of your metabolic health. It's also the element that helps me decide how much protein you should be eating. And last, which brings us to protein. This indicator is tracking the amount of protein that's found inside your muscles. You want to make sure that what you're consuming is bioavailable. This means that your body recognizes it as nutrients and it's actually feeding you and serving you and taking care of you instead of depleting you and causing sickness. I know I've given you a lot of information. So what's the synopsis of what all these things are important? Here's the first thing. Get the facts. You do not want to guess how much you should be eating, how much protein you should be consuming. If your body's getting enough water, the Renpho is going to help and tell you what are the facts about my body. The second thing is that we're tracking. Make sure that the decisions and the lifestyle changes that you're making are actually in support of making these trends help you make your goals. The key is to work smarter, not harder, and to be able to make these small little end adjustments to make sure that you are living a happier, healthier life so we can feel good. Because people that feel good, they're happy, and happy people help people and are wonderful contributions into our human planet. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to me. Check out my website, send me a DM. I was put on this planet to help, and I'd love to help you.